Welcome to the launching event of Risale-i Nur Academy, a new project within the framework of the Respect Graduate School. I have been involved with the projects of Respect Graduate School for more than 1.5 years now. The launching event of Risale-i Nur Academy, a new project within the framework of the Respect Graduate School. So I can say a few words about what we have done up until now. We had this project in mind for some time. We were speaking about having an English course also, but for the last 1.5 years, we have been having lectures in Turkish language, the original language of the Epistles of Light, the Risale-i Nur of Bediuzzaman Said Nursi. Respect Graduate School has been trying to move or transfer the wisdom and knowledge that were accumulated by Bediuzzaman Said Nursi into the modern interpretation of the Quran to an English-speaking world. For 1.5 years, I can say we have accumulated or garnered enough experience on how to make lectures on Zoom, online, and so on. It seems that we are ready to kickstart the Risale-i Nur Academy. To the best of my information, I'm just one of the lecturers, and I'm going to be lecturing in the spring in 2022. We are going to have for this year 4 semesters, and every semester 2 lecturers from major topics from within the Risale-i Nur, the Epistles of Light. I'm going to start with Dr. Züleyha Çolak, who is the coordinator of Risale-i Nur Academy. Züleyha, can you say a few words about what kind of lectures we have organized? What does it mean having 2 lectures? How many weeks every lecture is going to continue on?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Balci. I'll call you Dr. Balci again.
Yes, I know.
Against your wish.
It's a misdemeanor, but unfortunately, it stuck to me. I'm not a doctor.
It's consider it as a prayer, inshallah soon.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So, Risale-i Nur Academy was a dream of mine since I was 17 years old. So this has been an ongoing thought and dream, and and now we have started with small steps and scratching the surface and trying to see if there is an interest, if there is a need for this in the in the world. And thanks to God that we see there is a growing interest, and it seems like our community, and we are ready to hear the truth eventually. And we have been doing individual scholars who studied on the Risale as a either PhD thesis or as a research project, some lectures for the last probably 6 months or so. And it came out, this project has come out as a result of these lectures, and hopefully among the young people we will see some interest. And so far it's the first small step, baby step that we will have as a school. It means a lot. It is not a small step, actually. It means a lot for us because this will be the first seed of the school. So hopefully after the lecture series, now we will offer 2 classes in each semester. We call them a semester, and we have, they are each 8 weeks long, actually. And eventually we will have 4 semesters, including the summer semester. And until summer semester, we'll have fall, winter, and spring quarter. So in each semester or quarter, whatever we call it, we'll have 2 courses offered. And we are very fortunate to have our first two courses and their professors here with us today.
So Züleyha, 8 weeks each semester, 2 courses. Any registrant can be registered to both of those courses. This means that within a year's time, 8 different topics relating to the epistles of light, the Risale-i Nur, will be covered. And we can say this is quite an intensive program already by means of being in English. In Turkish, many people, or in Arabic, many people provide similar programs, but this one is unique and it is quite a intensive program, I can say.
Actually, when we were doing the lectures, I received a lot of questions about, we have Turkish Risale-i Nur lectures and school, but we don't have an English one. Are we going to have one? And those who were asking the question now, they don't have an excuse. They will be, they will have to, inshallah, they will want to.
Where is this demand coming, Züleyha? Is this mainly the second, third, fourth generation immigrants of Muslim families from all around the world, or we do also native English-speaking Muslims or even non-Muslims who are interested in Risale-i Nur?
We can say, we have interest from all grounds.
So I can see we lost voice of Züleyha. Yeah, we have been losing Züleyha's voice. I am sure she will turn back. Let me turn back to the two. Züleyha, we cannot hear you well.
Going up.
Let me turn back to Dr. Hakan Gok. I studied with Dr. Hakan Gok in Durham University. Well, actually, he was almost done when I started. And I also enjoyed some of his lectures. Hakan, you have been lecturing in English in both in Respect Graduate School, in other venues also. You have a unique style that is appealing to younger souls, I may say so. You are going to be teaching Bediuzzaman Said Nursi's argumentations for the existence of God. This is a topic you studied academically also?
That's right, yes. I even published a book which is available in all good bookstores, including Amazon. Bit of a plug-in, yes. It's called Atheism or Theism, Said Nursi's Perspective. Yes, that was my research.
Are you planning to use your book as a reading for the lecture, or you are concentrating on the primary sources?
Basically, what I do in courses like this, I just give the summary of my research, and I continuously promote my book. And I'm happy if students buy them. Yeah, it's going to be the summary of the book, but yeah, if people are interested, they can by all means read the book as well.
So let us say that I'm a student. I like the topic and I like the idea that the lecturer had done an academic study on this. I want to enroll. What am I going to find in the course?
Well, I mean, to start with, this is my life passion. I'm a physicist, and years ago, because, I mean, the content of this course is, I think, everybody's interest. Whatever you might be doing in life, you might be, running a business or earning good money. But deep down in your psyche, you live with these questions. And I was teaching physics in colleges and schools in England. I was always interested because they kept coming to me all the time. Then when I met Professor Colin Turner at Durham University, I met him on a casual ground over a cup of tea. And he says, look, it looks like your passion. Why don't you do a research on that? I don't have a theological background. I'm a scientist by trade. And I picked on my favorite aspect of this philosophy, which is the existence of God. Can can it be proved? Also, popular questions like problem of evil and suffering and divine destiny and questions like that. I spent quite a bit of time doing literature research and studying Risale-i Nur thoroughly. And I personally enjoyed doing the research, and I published a book, and I've been teaching the content of my research for many, many years now. I am excited about it, and I'm sure a lot of listeners and students will equally enjoy it because it's very popular, very relevant, because unfortunately most PhD researches are not very interesting to hear about. That's why you go to PhD repositories and you just see only few people have downloaded the research and read them. Whereas this topic, I mean, you can find lots of videos on YouTube, lots of debates. It's, you know, ever been hot since the time of ancient Greeks. Is there a God?
Yeah.
Can you prove there is God? So this is the main theme of this course I'm offering, and I've been teaching this for many years.
Hakan, let me ask this question. You know, what is going to be the difference between listening you on a YouTube broadcast that is open to the general public, probably promoting the existence of God, you know, trying to convince people that God does exist, and listening to you in a lecture hall or in a classroom environment? You know, what extra is going to be there academically?
I think first is the commitment. I mean, there are lots of material out there, but if you're signed up to this course, it means you're really curious and probably give you know, almost 100% of your attention, and probably you'll have a good understanding because what I offer is a mixture of Greek philosophy, European philosophy, Islamic philosophy, and Nursi's perspective. So it's a package all in one. So by the end of the course,
it's a comparative study.
It is. By the end of the course, you will have a clear understanding of where everybody stands. And probably you're going to have a solid ground to stand up and, you know, talk to people on the subjects. I think it's going to give you good, solid understanding of the subject. And the benefit of being part of a course like this, it's going to be interactive. I mean, you're watching a video, you're just watching a video. But if you are taking the course, you can always interact. And I encourage students to express themselves, because I don't want it to sound like a monologue. I just, you know, deliver a lecture, people just listen. No, I want student engagement. And also, I would like everybody, ideally, to produce an academic piece by the end of it, because we're going to have 8 weeks.
Let us come to the issue of the technical aspects of how the lectures are going to be, you know, run and so on later on, because that is a crucial issue, because most of the students would want to know how much time they need to spare for this, how much reading they need to make in the weekdays, will they have homeworks or assessment material and so on. I will ask that question. But let me pass to Dr. Omer Kuru, again from Durham School of Thought, let me say. And once again, Dr. Kuru was working on his PhD. We have had lengthy discussions in the past about the nature of the human I-ness or human ego or human ene. The naming, the nomenclature issue is still there, and I'm sure this classroom is going to help people understand what is ene, what is the human self. You are going to be teaching, once again, your own academic study, Dr. Kuru.
Yes, that's right. Actually, possibly it's about 20 years after we talked about this, you know, concept of an I, what it is exactly. So yeah, I have had plenty of chance to think about again and again on these concepts. I would like to say first, the course title is Nursian Nursi, because I just want to emphasize the point that because nafs and ana are different concepts. Nafs, we know nafs as a self, but ana is the concept of I and related with ego, of course. But we just don't want to translate ana as ego, or we don't want to use just as an equivalent words, because ego was produced by Freud. Ego and superego he formalized in psychology, but of course Freud is a materialist, so there is no space for spirituality or immaterial aspect of ego in his frame. But in Nursi add some other dimensions, and so that's why we can use ego in the discussion.
Ömer, I can see that it's already a comparative study now, at least from a critic of a material understanding of human self or human ego or ana. You reminded me of the length of our friendship also. Yes, it is 20 years now. Good to remember those days, but I'm looking forward to learn more from you. Are you going to bring in other Western philosophers also about the human self and compare with Nursi, or it's going to be a rather Islamic study?
Oh, thank you for the question. That's really important. And first of all, I would like to tell you there are 2 semesters. In the first semester, I will focus on the concept of nafs, self. In the second, ana. So they are connected to each other. But in the first semester, when we focus on the concept of self, of course, we also give space to Western scholars because Nursi is not a classic Muslim scholar. We need to underline that point, because in Islamic literature, when the nafs is discussed, usually, almost actually, there are 2 important branches: Islamic philosophy and classical Islamic Muslim scholars, or Islamic approach, different from Islamic philosophy. In the differentiator in these 2 branches, in the Islamic philosophy, they stick with Aristotelian categorization, vegetative soul, animal soul, human soul. But in Islamic literature, Muslim scholars, they use Quranic terminology, and al-nafs al-ammara, al-nafs al-lawwama, al-nafs al-mutma'inna, in English, of course, this program, and the evil commanding soul, self-accusing soul, or self-criticizing soul, and tranquil soul, satisfied soul. These 2 different approaches, and always staying in the frame of the certain literature, like philosophical or Quranic. That's an important characteristic in discussions. But Nursi, I just a bit feel embarrassing. I feel like I'm promoting Nursi, but no, that's not the case. But he's the first Muslim scholar in the Islamic literature combine these 2 terminologies, and talking about the connections and differences between these 2 terminology, actually. So that's why we have to give space to some other scholars, and especially, Aristotle. I will talk about Aristotle and his categorization, and some other Muslim scholars like Muhyiddin Arabi, Imam Ghazali, when I talk about in Islamic or Quranic frame.
Ömer, is this lecture a philosophy or a tasawwuf, the mysticism, Islamic mysticism course, or a psychology course?
Thank you. This question is again quite important. During my PhD, I kept interdisciplinary because each subject covers different aspects of the self. So unless keeping interdisciplinary, it's not possible to see the entire picture. You know, but I need to tell this course is a course of Sufism. This is important. Yes, that's right. But under the title, under the main roof of Sufism, we will have plenty of we find philosophy, Islamic terminology, classical understandings, and so on. Yeah.
Well, Mainz is only a lamenting that there's no real academic study as yet about human psychology, according to Said Nursi, or in fact any other Muslim philosopher. And hopefully this is going to, pave the way towards a more comprehensive study of human psychology from an Islamic perspective. I want to turn back to Züleyha. Hopefully we don't have a sound issue. Züleyha, we were hoping to have other lecturers from the next and the further semesters. I know that I'm going to be lecturing sometime. I remember my topic as speaking about the, if we want to use the term, unrealized projects of Said Nursi. I want to bring 8 amazing projects that Said Nursi spent all his life about, but unfortunately they are not commensurate. They are not finished totally. So it is left to future generations to deal with those issues, like writing, for example, a new and modern interpretation of the Quran through a collective knowledge producing mechanism, a kind of collectivity writing a text. Then we didn't have Wikipedia systems. Now we have. So technologically speaking, we are more equipped by means of the digital technologies to do what Said Nursi dreamt about more than 100 years ago, actually. So I will be speaking about other projects like a university that brought positive sciences and religious sciences together and also promoted eloquence as a strategy of learning, not only teaching. So I will speak about those issues, but can you give us information about other courses? We were hoping to have Dr. Mahsheed today with us, and still I'm hopeful that she can join us from Australia. Of course, there are time differences, and a few of our lecturers were not able to join because of health conditions. Who we have in the future in the program?
In the first semester, as we have mentioned, we have Dr. Hakan Gok here and Dr. Omer Kuru. So first 8 weeks in the first semester, we'll have these 2 courses. And then in winter quarter, around the time of January, we'll have Professor Adnan Aslan. And he will have a course titled A Religious Interpretation of the Universe from the Perspective of Risale-i Nur. And myself, and my topic will be Approaching Quranic Stories from the Perspective of Risale-i Nur. And I'll focus on the story of Joseph, which is my PhD thesis. So we will try to see how Nursi offers the models of approaching Quranic stories, such as the first and second flashes, Prophet Job and Prophet Jonah, and how we can implement it on other surahs. So this will be the second semester, and me and Dr. Adnan Aslan. In the third quarter, we'll have Dr. Balci, you yourself, and Dr. Mahsheed Ansari. Mahsheed, unfortunately, is not here today. I was hoping that she was able to join. Hopefully she will. I'm still hopeful. And there will be a summer semester as well. In the summer, we'll have, inshallah, Dr. Züleyha Keskin, her recent book on inner peace, according to Risale-i Nur, Finding Inner Peace in Islam, Said Nursi's Perspective, and Dr. Hakan Gok, Modern Interpretation of the Quran, the contribution of Bediuzzaman Said Nursi. So these are the 8 courses we came up with this year. And I'm hoping that, Allah will help us to actualize our dreams, and inshallah.
Züleyha, you have already turned the whole globe into a Risale-i Nur lecture sphere, because to the best of my knowledge, Züleyha and Mahsheed are from Australia, you yourself, Dr. Adnan Aslan from United States, Dr. Çolak, I don't know, and Hakan, Ömer, and myself, again, Australia. So it is going to be an interesting, timeline skipping courses. Mainly the courses are going to be on Saturdays and Sundays. What is the timeline for the courses, for example, this term for Hakan and Ömer?
We can hear it from themselves. I don't have the details.
Yeah, Hakan, for example,
now,
you are going to be starting. Yeah,
express.
Hakan, you are going to be starting on the 9th or 10th of October. We don't have your...
Sorry. I think I'm going to be starting on the 8th of October. My courses will be on Saturdays, I've been told.
Yeah, and what time? You know?
Well, it's going to be PM in the UK. Then you work out your local time zone. So it's going to be about 4 PM in the afternoon in UK time.
Our spectators who are watching us, they can also see the chat box next to YouTube screen. There our friends have already put the links for the Risale-i Nur Academy. There you can see all the future lectures and the timeline also. And yes, it is going to be like 5 hours difference between the East Coast and United Kingdom. And I think almost a day difference between Australia and it's already morning time there, and the United States. Ömer, the lectures are going to be 2 hours as far as I know. And these 2 hours are going to be spent only by lecturing, or there are other plans?
No, yes, it is 2 hours, and my lecture will be placed on Sunday at the same time with Dr. Gok. And 2 hours, and ideally, I would like to use the first hour for delivering the lecture using PowerPoint, and in the second hour, or the second part of the course lesson in the same day, the discussion will be placed, and I am so keen to elaborate the subject with interactive discussions. So hopefully it will be very, very colorful, not a boring lecturing only. So that's my plan, yeah.
Well, let me turn back to the issue that Hakan had already started, the technical aspects. We already entered into it. This is a 2 hours of course, a week. But how much, for example, of course, this changes from the lecturer to the lecturer. When it comes to my cases, I usually give a lot of reading to people, but when it comes to English, most probably they won't have a lot of reading, will they?
Well, we are gonna prescribe relevant readings from Risale-i Nur and from other sources, but I don't expect people doing any preliminary reading before joining the lessons, so they can just join in. I expect students to develop interest while the course is progressing, then focus on the particular aspect of the course. It could be, you know, the Hellenistic way of arguing for the existence of God, or European, or strictly Risale-i Nur, or atheist questions. They can pick up any of the topics and try to excel on it, so they can do additional readings and they can express their views in an academic way. Yeah, as I said, there is no pre-reading prescribed for the course. But I'll be recommending materials to read.
I see. Dr. Kuru, your topic is a rather, you know, usually people think about is there a God or not? And so it is a everyday life question. But when it comes to the self, and particularly, you know, psychology or philosophy or mysticism of the self, it's not, you know, usually people do not think about those issues. Sometimes even people just mix the idea of saying self as one's self and the nafs that is a different entity from the human totality itself. So will you be asking people to spend more time to your lectures by means of reading or getting prepared, or it is largely a lecture project?
To be honest, that's interesting. Always, you know, attracts my attention why people don't care about the self, understanding of self in deep down, because this is one of the basic subjects, concepts. If the first question is, who is God? The second question is, who am I? And the best relationship between God and man, to be honest, only possible if you understand yourself, because, you know, very famous hadith narration from the Prophet Muhammad, Man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabbahu. He who knows his self knows his Lord or God. So to be honest, people, they seems quite familiar with the subject, but deep down, no. So this course is really important, to be honest, to understand why am I here? What am I doing here? Where am I coming from, or where I'm going to? So that's why I'm surprised. Yes, Dr. Gok's subject quite in daily life, 24/7, people are engaged, but it seems not that much. You know, people engage with the concept of self, but I believe it's necessary. And about the preparation of the course, I will mention some sources from Nursi's magnum opus, Epistle of the Light, Risale-i Nur collection. But to be honest, they don't need to do more preparation, much preparation. If they focus on the lecture, and in the second part, if they ask their questions and, you know, try to understand the different aspects and standing points, and that would be more than enough. This is not a heavy course, would be enjoyable, and hopefully we will get what we want at the end of the course. And our expectation, actually, you didn't ask about the expectation, just about the material and how we discuss. Would you like me to talk
yes,
about?
please do so.
Okay. To be honest, there are two important problems in the concept of self. One is each subject covers different aspects of the self. So people, they don't have a comprehensive understanding. They don't see the entire picture. It's always, in my mind, like a jigsaw puzzle. And each subject, each branch, science covers different aspects of the self. You know, the very famous metaphor in Sufism, the elephant metaphor. In a dark room, you know, different people, they hold different part of the elephant and describe the elephant, what they holding. But the real elephant is the totality of what they holding or what they describing. So in this course, our aim to see the entire picture, to use each branch or discipline just as a pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and to see the entire picture. That's really important for us. So this is one important difference of the course, because you know, if you had asked me the same question, like Hakan, you know, what's the difference between your YouTube video and this course, you know, in the classroom? So I would have told, you know, the main difference, the most important thing, there is no any video or any source talking about the Nursi to explain how Nursi approach, how Nursi discuss, elaborates the concepts through using both Western and Islamic literatures. So that's why this aspect of the course makes it unique. So yeah.
Yeah, so we can. I just want to say, before turning to Mahsheed, who joined us from Australia, can we say that registering to both of the courses won't be too heavy to carry on?
No, definitely won't be heavy now.
Okay, that's good to know, because, you know, at one end, the existence of God, it's a crucial question. At the other hand, knowing yourself, I'm sure our students or prospective students wouldn't want to miss either one of them. And you already promised that it's going to be largely on the class-based learning. They will be able to concentrate on certain aspects of the topic, particularly on argumentations of the existence of God or inexistence of God. They can concentrate on issues. But let me turn back to Mahsheed. Obviously, because of a miscommunication between myself and Mahsheed, we did have our issue. Welcome, Mahsheed.
Thank you, and good morning. I'm very sorry, time zone confusions. 8:10 in Sydney.
Okay, Mahsheed, tell us about yourself. Who are you? And you have been studying on the Risale-i Nur, on Nubuwwah, but the prophethood, I assume.
Yes, my name is Mahsheed Ansari, and I'm from Charles State University, the Center of Islamic Studies and Civilization. I did my doctoral thesis on Nubuwwah, prophethood. I call myself a reader of the Risale-i Nur, as I call myself a reader of Islamic studies. So I'm still a reader of Risale-i Nur for a number of years now, but my doctoral thesis completed 2015. I'm currently working on a project, a book project on the Nubuwwah topic as well. So it's my passion, really, contextualizing it in the modern debates. Yeah, and I'm based here in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to ask you a difficult questions, Mahsheed, because your classes are going to be in the future semesters, and most probably you are going to work on your project, your curriculum, and so on. But let me ask this question. You know, what kind of of an academic aspect you brought in your studies into the topic of prophethood? Because as a daily living Muslim, when I say the topic of nubuwah, prophethood, it largely speaks to me that there is a prophet. God communicates to human beings through books that he reveals and through prophets that he sends together with the books. What else is there by means of academic study of the topic?
Excellent question. Well, it's such a deep topic, it's a very important question, the topic of Nubuwah. But as you said, it's important for us Muslims because it's in that creedal statement, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So if not with monotheism, Tawheed, it's up there, prophethood being important. I think Risale-i Nur has a lot to offer in terms of the modern discussions, in terms of a new kalam that Said Nursi was trying to, establish in the revivalist tradition that he was part of. But it's important, I think what we can do is looking at this particular wonderful Risale Academy that Respect College is running, which I'm so really happy to have, is that we for the first time able to have the context behind the text as well in the academic sense. I mean, Risale-i Nur can be studied as a devotional text, but looking at Nubuwah from an academic lens, we were able to contextualize Said Nursi's, these very deep philosophical and theological presentations of Nubuwah in light of the modern debates that were there in his time. I mean, without sounding too rational, but it was important that Nursi addressed some of the problems and questions that came up that sort of had question marks about institution of Nubuwah, including the finality of prophethood, which he didn't address directly, but it was there in that century. So there's a lot of issues happening around prophethood and Nubuwah. And Nursi's style obviously is not to engage. He engages with them and he brings them up. So I think looking at Nursi more comparatively is something that I hope to achieve in this course. Obviously, my focus in my thesis was also comparison with Muhammad Iqbal, but I also look at other scholars as well to situate his works better, and also looking at him in the line of Islamic intellectual dialectics that he was a part of. So I think it's important to bring, look at the Nubuwah institution as Nursi has elaborated on it, not just, on its own, but in context of the greater academic tradition, classical Islam, but also the modern debates and things that were happening. So I don't think I have time to go into depth of the actual topics.
Well, actually, it has actually shown that there is a huge treasury out there. And as far as I do understand, the prospective students can already register to future semesters also. And they can just register for the full 4 semester courses. So I'm sure you will start getting already students. Let me turn back to Hakan, because I want to show our audience that in fact, in those 8 semesters, kind of a full edifice of Risale-i Nur and also the creed of Islam, the belief system of Islam is going to be studied. One of the argumentations that Said Nursi brings about the existence of God is Prophet Muhammad. But then he turns back and uses existence of God as a proof of nubuwah, of prophethood. It's kind of mutually proving proofs system in Said Nursi. Are you going to deal with such aspects of it so that your study is going to lead the way to Mahsheed courses also?
Yes, it is true. One of the 4 ways of arguing for the existence of God from Nursi's perspective is nubuwah. But what I do in my courses is rather unorthodox. I mainly focus on William James. It's a psychological aspect. And in philosophy, there is an argument for the existence of God called ARE, argument from religious experience. That is the aspect I particularly focus on when I teach nubuwah as an evidence to the existence of God. It is a bit unusual, rather fresh and interesting. So I will leave Nubuwa as a whole topic to Mahsheed, because she's going to dedicate the whole semester to that topic. But I'll look at the psychological aspect of it, and students will hear a rather different approach to Nubuwa as an argument for the existence of God. So William James will be talking about him and his views, and how, well, I'm quite proud to tell that I think made this connection when I was discussing Nubuwa with Colin Turner. He was also quite impressed. He says, wow, this is very interesting. And I give an example of different people coming from different directions and bringing certain news. And Colin Turner said, near the end of my research, he says, so what is your conclusion? Which one is your favorite? Which one is the strongest? As a scientist, as a physicist, I said, design argument to me is very strong. And he said, my favorite argument is Nubuwa, argument from religious experience. And he explained to me why. Then I took his views and added to my lectures. It tells an interesting story, rather emotional, psychological, but very powerful. So students will be hearing rather different approach to Nubuwa argument.
Hakan, I'm not sure whether we will be able to turn back once again. So I wanted to ask this question to you, technical question, but I'm sure our audience is looking forward to it. And by the way, our audience can ask their questions on YouTube chat box, and I'm going to try to ask those questions to our lecturers. You said your students will be able to concentrate to either aspect of your lectures. That concentration is only by means of learning, or you are planning to ask them to write an assessment or
well, I in academia, we say publish or perish, because a lot of our students are very bright, full of ideas, very knowledgeable, and I encourage them. There are 4 arguments for the existence of God in Risale-i Nur. They can pick one of them, and they can make a connection to previous Western arguments or Islamic arguments and focus on one of them and write an academic piece. So that's what I encourage everybody joining my courses. I don't want them to sit there and passively listen, rather produce something and ideally publish it. So the record is out there forever. As I said, it is not a requirement, but every time I offer a course like this, few people come up with, absolutely brilliant pieces of essays. So I'm hoping we're going to have some stars emerging at the end of this semester.
So it's not a requirement to write, but if anybody wants to write, this is a promise that you will be leading the process and reading their articles, because sometimes people send me their articles and I usually do not find time to read and comment on them. But it's very good to know that you will be able to do that. Ömer, I want to ask you this question. Well, we are speaking Turkish as a second language, English as a second language. And from among your audience, there will be students who are not native in English also. And your topic is, there are aspects of psychology, there are aspects of Sufism. You already quoted an Arabic hadith narrative of the Prophet today. When you are speaking about levels of the nafs, the human self, you refer to Arabic terms and so on. Will it be difficult for the students to follow the lectures in English? Or should we say, in fact, that is going to be also an opportunity to learn the vocabulary of Islam?
Oh, yeah. To be honest, it's in your hand to make the course difficult or easier. It depends, what you aim. So our aim in this frame of the course, to be honest, as I emphasized before, the most important thing to see the entire picture of the self, because the same reason people, they usually focus on different aspects of the self, and their works, articles, books, they just talk about that specific aspect of the self. So then automatically we miss the entire picture. So we are going to simplify the course. It doesn't mean, this simplification would cause an ambiguity or not understanding, not having a comprehensive understanding of the concept. No. We have a map. So we spent more than enough time on the concept. So I believe I understand Nursi in a correct way and have a comprehensive understanding what he means. So it will be okay, no problem at all. About following the course, PowerPoint in the center. And I already simplified all the sources, and I will lead them, take them to the top of the hill, in terms of the nafs.
It is really encouraging because, particularly from among our audience, there might be people who are Turkish speakers, and they would say, well, I am reading Risale-i Nur in Turkish, and particularly issues about the nafas and ana, I'm not able to understand them even in Turkish. How will I understand those in English?
I would like to interrupt you, if you don't mind. I believe most of the Risale-i Nur readers, they don't understand the nafs in Turkish, in Risale.
Yeah.
So in this course, there is no difference between Turkish native speakers or, first language or second, no worries. So, yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting opening. Well, Mahsheed, I was going to turn to you. Well, all other people in this broadcast and all other lecturers in the Risale-i Nur Academy this year are Turkish by origin. You, I don't know, but not certainly Turkish. And you read Risale-i Nur from English. When we say Risale-i Nur appeals to us, our Turkishness and the original language of Risale-i Nur has an element in it. How relevant to a modern day Australian non-Turkish background Muslim lady Risale-i Nur is, and why is it important to study Risale-i Nur at this time from an academic perspective also?
That's a very good question. It's one of those texts that really, as a non-Turkish speaking person, really struck me. And not just myself, as you know, the Risale-i Nur has been translated into many languages across the world, and there's other organizations that have worked on that. But for me, it strikes me because the language is very unique. It's the expression of Said Nursi, I find him very unique, and it's quite impressionable. And I think in the modern context, as young people or people of these generations look for something that intellectually satisfies their questions of existential questions, including Nabuwa, but of course about existence of God and other questions of where we're headed. And I think, Nursi, we have this rich tradition in our religion, definitely. But I think the style is unique in that it's not just a rational text. There's also the metaphysical and the spiritual dimensions of the Risale-i Nur that are very attractive for a person like myself. And although we can say that, when we translate a text, it doesn't quite retain the authenticity of the original expression, but I think we have very good translators in the English language. I personally read them firstly by Shukran Vahide, her translations. They were my first entry into the Risale-i Nur, but I access now as academic, we have more translations in English available, which is fantastic. So I think it's important that the Risale-i Nur, it's definitely accessible in English language. We have it now in good, you know, Quran is another example, our holy text, you know, it's in Arabic language, but we all access it in translation. So it's definitely not like the original, but the essence is so significant, the argumentations are still there, that it's as powerful and impactful to, in terms of, you know, the tahqiqi iman, that investigative faith that Nursi really promotes. And it's attractive for a person who's seeking clarity and certainty in issues of faith that we otherwise might have doubts about in our day and age. So I think it's an important text for young, for this generation, although it was written last century, definitely relevant because it addresses those key fundamental questions. And it has a very unique methodology. It's a very unique, it strikes us as a very unique text.
Thank you, Mahsheed. To our audience, we are almost at the end of our broadcast. When the students of Said Nursi prepared a kind of index for the whole series of episodes of Light, at the introduction of the index, they wrote this. In this short, annotated bibliography, I would say, or briefs of the episodes of Light, you will find a cup of water from the ocean, and a cup of water cannot represent the ocean. In the Risale-i Nur Academy, you will find the ocean. In this broadcast, you saw only a cup of water from that ocean, and it cannot rightfully represent what you will find in those lectures. And I, being a chatterbox, took a lot of time of other people. We did have some sound connectivity problem with Züleyha, but I want to finish with Züleyha, and if she cannot answer, I'm going to complete that question and answer. What else is there in Risale-i Nur Academy? Are we going to only lecture, or are there plans to organize conferences, publications, and so on, Züleyha?
I will say inshallah, Kerim abi. Inshallah. These are all our first steps. Inshallah, when we actualize the school, the next step, inshallah, is, you know, we never stop. We always, you know, focus on our project at hand and then plan for the future. So inshallah, we'll have a Risale-i Nur conference all together in the future.
Thank you very much, Züleyha. To our audience, the inshallah that Züleyha says is not an inshallah, unplanned inshallah. It is already a planned inshallah. But of course, there is issues of human resources, but there is also a very important issue of audience. You know, if you don't have enough students enrolling, if you don't have an audience that is listening to you, supporting your projects, both spiritually and financially, if you don't feel that your words are being listened to, you won't find the energy. So we are hoping that with this term, starting from next week on, the first two courses is going to, you know, emanate enough interest among our audience. We will have enough enrollment for future semesters also. And if you can give us that courage, encouragement, yes, we are working on projects of organizing conferences in English language about the Risale-i Nur, not only the Risale-i Nur, but the issues relating to to modern Islam in the whole world, particularly in Western countries and so on. And also we are working on a project of publishing an academic journal, not only on Risale-i Nur studies, but overall Islamic studies, but of course with a stress on Bediuzzaman Said Nursi's tradition and the following traditions in Turkish-speaking world. Thank you very much to all my participants today. I would love to have more time and more questions and answers. But for the time being, this is just an introduction. This is a launching event. Hopefully, we will have other teachers, and at the beginning of next semester, we will have another broadcast in order to introduce the new courses. For the time being, for Hakan and Ömer, Mahsheed, Züleyha, thank you very much, and thank you to our audience. Okay, the